Fossil fuels are bad and the future is electric, right? Or at least that's what we've been told. Now, don't get us wrong, fossil fuels are bad and the future is electric. But is that new tech really as efficient as it seems? Is this shift to electricity really the solution we need? And are tech companies wrong to think electric cars solve climate change? Stay tuned for all this and more. First up, the problem isn't with emissions. It's true, electric cars don't emit any sort of waste products. They're a clean energy solution driving us towards a sustainable future with less pollution and environmental damage. But the only problem here is that we're not focusing on the right thing. See, the problem isn't with emissions, it's with the batteries themselves. To build a battery for an electric car, automobile manufacturers need to mine minerals like lithium and cobalt. And it's not just lithium or cobalt. A lot of toxic minerals like nickel, copper, and aluminum go into making an electric battery. With that being said, we're still not pushing forward with the claim that electric cars are completely bad for the environment. They might not emit the same amount of greenhouse gases from their tailpipes, but that still doesn't mean they're the correct solution to climate change. We'll get to the details in a bit, but just consider this for a second. Mining lithium and cobalt isn't just a health risk for the miners and surrounding populations, but it also creates a huge environmental risk. Just mining deep enough to reach these minerals takes a huge amount of energy that isn't exactly coming from green alternatives. We're still using machinery powered by gasoline, and just digging out these minerals to create the actual battery itself ends up emitting so many greenhouse gases, it might just make an EV much less sustainable. Next, the grid problem. Say you bought a Tesla and pulled up to the charging station to power your batteries. You have a long trip ahead of you and you can't wait to get started since you'll save a ton of fuel. No more pulling up at the pump and no more damage to the environment, right? But have you wondered how these stations are being powered in the first place? What if they're still burning coal to produce electricity? Wait, scratch that. They're actually still burning coal to produce electricity, and this brings us to the next problem, the grid. In order to make electric vehicles more efficient, you need to restructure the entire grid. We're seeing a global agenda trying to get countries to shift to electric cars by 2050, with some countries even claiming their entire transport system will be completely electric by 2030. And while that's really commendable, has anyone ever wondered whether they're also going to be restructuring the grid? Do they plan on producing electricity using much greener alternatives like wind or solar? Or are they still going to be burning up coal the conventional way to power the charging stations? We've heard two wrongs don't make a right, but when you think about it, not even one wrong makes a right. Sure, it's just a one-time thing with producing the batteries, but what if we're charging them using the same old methods? Not really sustainable, right? Moving on, is it really a fair change? We're not sure why automobile manufacturers are being painted as the good guys here, even though they're not sharing the entire picture. Look, we're not here to attack electric vehicles. We think it's a part of the solution, but it's not the entire solution. And you know us for calling things out as they really are. It's just another battle for our attention and money. While we're working long hours to buy an electric vehicle and comply with a green policy in the future, battery manufacturers are destroying the environment somewhere in the Republic of Congo to mine cobalt. And the worst part? Children are being thrown into those mines to dig up these minerals using hand tools. We are not making this up. A lot of human rights groups have joined hands to raise the issue about the health and environmental risks of mining in Congo, since 70% of cobalt comes from there. Is this really a fair solution? Because the only group cashing in on this seems to be the automobile makers. Are we being told the whole story when it comes to these electric vehicles? We're not gonna lie, everything about the complete shift to EVs has fishy written all over it. Following up, 50% more water intensive. And just like the cobalt we're talking about, wait till we tell you all the horrors associated with lithium. Almost all the world's lithium presently comes from Australia, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. And the process of actually mining these materials is much more different compared to digging up cobalt. To actually get the lithium, miners need an abnormal amount of water to pump out the brines. And what that does is it takes the groundwater away from farmers, herders, and even households. The New York Times claims that the manufacturing of electric vehicles is 50% more water intensive than traditional combustion engines. So, are we really going to just sit around and let that happen? We're trying to save the environment, but at what cost? Child labor, health hazards, environmental risks, and draining groundwater? Is that really where we draw the line? This still doesn't mean electric vehicles are bad though. All this can be made sustainable if mining associations pay more attention to the various risks involved in digging out these minerals. There's a way to make things safer and more sustainable, but for now, nothing's happening. But actually, there has been some good news about cobalt. There's a lot of research going on that might eliminate the need for cobalt in order to produce electric batteries. But since that technology is still under development, there's no sign of the damage slowing down. Up next, what happens when the battery dies out? An electric battery used to power an EV is insanely powerful. It can actually keep working perfectly for a good 10 years. And when you compare that to a conventional vehicle's lifetime of 15 years, it isn't too bad. But yeah, you've probably heard that saying about how it's not the car that gets old, it's just the model. And if you treat her right and take good care of her, she can continue to power through for much longer than that. Batteries though, they need to be replaced. There's nothing exactly wrong with that, but what happens to the old one when we replace it? It gets recycled for all those precious minerals and metals, right? Right? Nope. It's estimated that only 5% of lithium-ion batteries get recycled in the United States, and that's remarkably low for a country that's the king of recycling. So how much time do we have before we run into another challenge of entire fields just piled up with old batteries emitting air pollutants? Honestly, guys, we don't know what to say. There are a lot of good things about electric cars, but there's always a downside too. Even if you were to recycle lithium-ion batteries, the amount of water it takes to do that is just crazy. There's just no win-win here. It's a win followed by a loss. Last but not least, the solution. Trust us when we tell you this. We're not here to paint a really gloomy picture of the future. We're here to tell you what's really going on. And if tech companies are wrong to think electric cars solve climate change, then what will solve it? Well, as far as mobility goes, we don't need to replace every conventional car with an electric one. We just need to reshape the way we travel, and it needs to be done on a massive scale. Paris Marx, author of the famous book Road to Nowhere, came up with a unique and idealistic mobility solution to climate change. We're calling it idealistic because Marx thinks the actual goal here should be to get humans out of cars altogether. But how do you even do that? Well, you start off by investing in the right things. Top thinkers and environmentalists should push authorities to invest in mass transit, walkable cities, and cycling. Our priority should be to get more people on buses, trains, and other modes of mass transit to reduce the number of vehicles on the road. Because let's face it, we've obviously established the fact that it's never going to be a win-win. And if we can't eliminate greenhouse gas emissions altogether, we can lessen it to a level where at least it won't be adding to climate change, right? Also, like we said before, it's idealistic, but there's a lot of examples of countries that have completely redesigned mobility. Take the Netherlands, for example. The country has literally redesigned itself as a country fit for bikes. Instead of having to take your car, you could cycle to pretty much anywhere you wanted. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Did you know there would be so many issues associated with electric cars? And do you agree with Mark's solution to get rid of cars altogether? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting and eye-opening videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.